Very much for joining us this morning. First things first, let's have a look at your top story. Well, leading at this half hour, as South Africa marks Reconciliation Day, people in Bergville in KwaZulu-Natal in the Midlands say that reconciliation is a dream deferred. The official government event marking the day takes place in the area where locals say racial tensions persist. Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver the keynote address later today. Our reporter Simphiwe Makhanya has been bringing us the updates. Let's cross to him live. Very good morning to you, Simphiwe. What's essentially happening there this morning, and what can we expect later today?
Good morning to you, Shante. Good morning to the viewers of the agenda. Well, certainly, Shante, the people here, residents of Bergville, are slowly starting to trickle in as they, of course, anticipate that main address which is going to be given by the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. There are quite a number of questions, Shante, that one may ask when it comes to marking this very important and historic day in South Africa, the Day of Reconciliation. How far the country has come in terms of ensuring racial unity and social cohesion amongst various people who are residents or citizens of the country, and also what government is doing to ensure that we actually erase the ugly past that actually happened in this country, where we saw quite a number of incidents which are racially motivated. But with me, Shante, I'm joined by the Minister of Arts and Culture, Minister Nathi Mthethwa. Babu Nyambo, thank you very much for joining us. Perhaps as the Department of Arts and Culture, heritage has to do a lot with arts and culture. What exactly are you doing to ensure that different racial groups in this country unite and their social cohesion?
Well, the social cohesion, particularly the day today, which is Reconciliation Day, one thing we are doing, firstly, we are emphasizing our commitment to reconciliation. It's a correct thing to do as a nation. We've got to reconcile. We've got to see the need for that. So the theme for this year, for reconciliation, is intertwined with indigenous languages. That for a nation to reconcile, there are building blocks which we have to put in place, because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. One of those is at the level of education, that government is doing everything. In fact, government is investing more in education than anywhere else. Our department, for instance, is giving out bursaries every year for languages in all the major universities. Not less than 400 students go through this program every year. So the issue of language has been lifted as one of such. But beyond that, you also look at the issue of economic development, because there can be no reconciliation if there's no economic justice. And one of the resolutions of the governing party in its last national conference, the ANC, was to speed up the question of property, starting with the land itself. We are at the point now where, for instance, this is one of the areas which is affected by land hunger and the dispute over land. So all these building blocks speak to one thing, that when we say we are reconciling those forces which were opposed in the past, but at the same time understand the historical injustice which we've got to address all the time.
Minister, the question that arises from what you are saying, though, is that is everyone willing to participate in this project of reconciliation and social cohesion? Because if you look around here, you don't see much diversity in terms of different racial groups.
Well, I don't know whether that can be a measurement. What you are pointing out here can be a measurement. You just have to understand where we come from. 1994. We were at the brink of a civil war, where you distinctly have two nations in one country, where almost everything was up for dispute, including the symbols of democracy and so on. But if you cast your eyes back and look at the road we have traveled so far, so much has happened in trying to get our nation in harmony. People may not be sharing spaces here, and we've always asked for that. But recently, Amapogopogo won the World Cup. You can't say the same thing. So it means, therefore, that there are those things which we need to work on continuously for everybody to see, because the more people share spaces, the more they then going to understand each other, the more issues like reconciliation would be understood. You see, incidents of racial tension, for instance, which happen from time to time. Fact of the matter is that around the world today, there is no nation which will say it is immune from racism. What becomes important is to keep focus on the ball. Our program and our agenda is not racism. Our agenda is non-racialism. So anybody who distracts us from that, we must deal with that person or those group of people as we move towards our goal, because we should not be deterred and disturbed in what we want to see happening in our country.
And of course, Minister, the theme for this year centers around the issue of indigenous languages. Are we promoting these indigenous languages enough as government in various spaces where we find ourselves as citizens?
I've just said one of the practical program we are doing, that one of the things our erstwhile colonizers failed to do is to annihilate our indigenous languages. If you go to other countries, you will find that people have forgotten about their indigenous languages. So the putting in place of mechanisms, including the policies of government, and one of the key policies is that all the government departments must have a language policy, must have language units to track the deepening of our own languages. Ourselves, in some of our symbols, we are changing some of the things. For instance, we had one National English Literary Museum. We've changed it to Amazwi Museum of Literature, because we believe that we can't have an English museum in a place which is dominated primarily by African people, indigenous African people. So you promote English, fine, but take into account that primarily we have to promote the local language there. So there are a number of things, including our changing of the heritage landscape in our country. Just 3 days ago, we won in the court in Eastern Cape the changing of the name Makhanda from that killer, that butcher, Lieutenant John Graham. It's no longer Grahamstown, it's Makhanda, because through that we want people to understand our roots, to understand our own history, to understand our struggle and our heroes. And in that way, when you continuously have the names of your people, of your heroes, people are going to understand that we indeed are moving towards transforming to our indigenous situation.
In summing up this conversation, Minister, is government doing enough to ensure social unity and social cohesion in society?
Look, the issue of social unity is not a government program. It's not a government preserve. It is about the nation. And I'm saying to you that when the nation does the kind of things which bring them together, all what the government should do is to lead and support those projects, because it's a correct thing to do. You see, the opposite of reconciliation is doom and gloom, and we will never be a government to promote such in our nation, because we've got to move together as a society and prepare firm ground for posterity.
Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Right, there was the Minister of Arts and Culture in the country, Minister Nathi Mthethwa. Well, that is it from where we are at the moment. We're expecting the President to actually start delivering his main address just after 12 midday today. But I'm going to throw to my colleague Vusi Khumalo to hear what is happening on the other side of Bergville where we are. Vusi?